The Nine-Sided Circle, for those who would rather be awake than entertained.
Hello, everyone, and welcome again to the regular Sunday talk that we have somewhat whimsically named Talks Within the Nine-Sided Circle. I'm glad to have you all here today. I see that a number of you are coming in, and I'm very excited for today's discussion. This evening, we are going to talk about three fundamental practices, which are usually referred to by the Gurdjieff people. Well, they usually only refer to two of them, and that is self-observation and self-remembering. There's a third practice, which is called self-witnessing, that Gurdjieff did not write about publicly. And this is not something he invented. This is something that he got from one or more of his Sufi teachers. And we're going to discuss the origins and get into at least a little bit of how to do these things, because that's one of the things that I notice people are very, very unclear on. When you go to look up the words, you find a lot of theology, you find a lot of dogma, but you don't find a lot of practice, which is kind of disappointing, to tell you the truth. So I figured that would be a good subject for us to address today. As always, Kyle will be monitoring your comments and letting me know when something comes up that I need to address. And I have to say, if it wasn't for her, this talk would not be nearly as good. Let's see who all we have here. So we have... Hello, Dave. Hello, Kyle. Hello, Aaron. Hello, Ilmer. Laura is there. Michael. Sean. All these people who I know and actually still show up. So, let's talk about this. And as I said last week, I have a few announcements that I'm very excited about, and I'm looking forward to sharing with you. We will do that at the end of tonight's talk, and that this is admittedly my ploy to keep you here so that you'll listen through the entire hour, and then I will tell you cool things at the end. So let's look at... moving around because I have all of these things in front of my screen. My camera setup is not entirely optimal, though I have managed to set up my camera so I can actually look into it rather than up at it. So it may actually look like I'm talking to you at this point. I certainly hope so, because that's my intention. But let's look at the things that we're going to be talking about. The first concept is called muhasabah in Arabic. And it's an interesting word. It means to make an account, or to take an account. In Arabic, if you ask for a check at a restaurant, it's usually hasbeh. At least that's also in Turkey, and I think in Iran. I don't remember off the top of my head. But anywhere where the language has gotten Arabic carryover words, you're liable to hear that word for the bill or the check. So it's that kind of accounting. But in this case, it doesn't quite mean that. What it means is to take an account of your experience. And this account is done first person, now, in the present moment, without presupposition, with sensory-based descriptions, and with bracketing from the rest of experience from your past and your future. Some of you, like Nick, is going to be going, wait a minute, I recognize that. That's phenomenology. And yes, it is phenomenology. It is existential phenomenological description of the world. And Husserl basically had a convergent evolution of thought with the Sufis. Go figure. So I'm going to... Oh my God! Sheikh Ibrahim! That's Victor Spiegel there, for you who don't know. Sheikh Ibrahim is an old and dear friend who is living in Australia now. An old partner in crime, phenomenal musician, great human being, wacky sense of humor. You should know him. So, the Gurdjieffian term self-observation is equivalent to the Sufi term muhasabah, or self-accounting, self-observation. And it specifically means it is a way of breaking loose from the conditioning of the ego by describing that which is given to you, the objects given to consciousness, as the yogis would say. In Sanskrit, pretty much everything that you experience is described as an object. Sanskrit, like English, is an object-oriented language. And so, when I think of an apple, the thought is an object given to the witness to observe. The problem comes with the identification with that which is being witnessed. When you identify with the objects of the ego construct, then you get profoundly stuck. So, the process of self-observation is very simple, but it is not particularly easy. So, I experience something. Let's say something makes me feel sad. And I look at that feeling. I feel that feeling. I listen to the voice in my head talk about that feeling. And rather than identifying with it, I describe it. I bracket it out, and I make a first-person presuppositionless description of that feeling. So I say, I feel a sensation just below my rib cage and about 4 inches in. And that sensation is prickly. And I feel a heaviness in the lower lids of my eyes. I hear a voice in my head, and it sounds like my voice, and it's saying these words. It's saying, you really feel sad about this, don't you? This is a terrible thing. And I look at the world, and the world looks a little bit darker than usual. So that would be an example of the beginning of a description. You'll find as you do this that you disidentify with the object given to your consciousness to witness. You make a separation between the experience of sadness and you as the experiencer, which is kind of what you want. Does that make sense so far? This is me looking down here at my tablet so I can see your comments. If you hear a ding, that's Kyle saying something to me like, "You fool! Pay attention to this thing over here!" So, I see a smiley face going up. That's always good. Yes, the difference between the observer and the observed. The observer is subject in this case. The observed is object. You have to be a little bit careful with that because some of the objects that you observe also have subjects. And you must always remember that. And yet, it will be useful for you to describe them as objects given to you, because that's your experience of them. So, this is referential. It is consciousness intentionally observing itself observing. And it's putting the primacy in this exercise on what we say in philosophy as the existence, as that which is given to consciousness to witness, the world at large. And that is the nature of this particular exercise. The next exercise, what they call self-remembering, is a little bit different. So, any questions on this? Do y'all think you could try and do something like this? And admittedly, it will take a little practice. You could ask me in private text for a little coaching. I suggest also that you ask Nick. Nick, I'm putting a heavy burden on you here, but this is in Nick's area of expertise. He knows lots about this. And so he's also, if you can't get my attention, get his attention. Kyle likes that. I'm going to see you fool probably every 5 minutes now. That's okay. I enjoy being a fool. So, that is a brief thought on the first practice. This is me looking for my notes again. The second practice, Gurdjieff called self-remembering. And the Arabic word is muraqabah. And it's usually translated as meditation, but it's not meditation in any sense that we understand it in the West. Ian asks, is this to be performed constantly? You could try, you would fail. It is to be performed in the beginning at specific times where you are sitting down and you are examining the contents of your ego. As you get better at it and as you clear out the detritus, I love that word, detritus, the detritus of your ego, it will become easier to do it more and more often, and it will come naturally so that your first-person descriptions of your experience are almost subliminal. Does that help, Ian? And again, we are stuck with the unfortunate 10-second or so lag between what I say here and what you hear there. There is an entire universe of time between my words and your hearing, and another universe between your hearing and your answering. It's very mystical. So, self-remembering. Muraqabah means to keep an eye on, to monitor, also to control, interestingly enough. But I like keeping an eye on. Ian, yes, make it a practice and the effects will bleed over. You will find yourself more and more naturally experiencing the objects given to consciousness in that way in real time, as opposed to having to bracket it out of time. So, whereas self-observation is referential, self-remembering is reflexive. And that means that rather than looking outward, here I am looking outward at the camera and you and the objects given to me, I look inward to that which is perceiving the objects. So it becomes reflexive. It's turning back in on itself. Self-remembering is the process of watching yourself be awake. Yes, Nick observes that he took the energy that he got from basically deleting the self-narrative, and now the self-observation is pretty much constant, which is how it works out. So in self-remembering, if I ask you right now, are you awake or are you asleep? Are you conscious right now? You're going to check inside and see if you are. Now, if you hold that checking, if you witness your own awakeness, that is self-remembering. It is that's the first step to it. Yes, it is literally awareness of your awareness. Watching yourself be awake, being aware of yourself as an awake being. And as you do that, as you sit there right now, listening to me talk to you and ask you if you're awake, and as you check to see if you're awake, you are waking up. It's one of the little tricks we play on you. And in that moment of waking up, just for a second, your conditioning drops back. The thing that we call nafs al-amara, the commanding self, it quiets down for a moment. And that's what we want. We want that chill, quiet sense of just being aware of being aware, being awake to being awake. Now, the secret to both of these, of course, is breath. And we're going to get to that in a big way in a second. So, take a moment and just look at yourself being awake. If you find yourself talking to yourself in your head, if you find yourself thinking about the past or the future, if you find yourself having feelings about things, just stop and ask yourself again, am I awake or am I asleep? Am I aware? And in that moment, just stretch that moment out for as long as you can and keep coming back to it. This is the prime form of Sufi meditation. And it's, as I learned it, it's not what most of the modern texts describe at all. It is just this thing of being aware of being aware. Does that make sense? Ask me questions about this, because otherwise I will go on to the next thing and we will miss stuff, and we don't want to miss stuff because your questions are good. And I'm hoping that this, by the way, is a brand new internet connection that we actually just got up and working a few hours ago. Today, we had the tech out. The tech actually came on Sunday because we were throwing hissy fits because we had no throughput. And hopefully we're not getting any lag time or any of that sort of thing. I've kind of throttled the broadcast down a little bit. We're only broadcasting at 24 frames a second. Good. I love it when I make sense. So, hopefully everything is going well for the broadcast, and you're all hearing me and seeing my smiling face. And there's not too much latency. It looks like from this end things are going moderately well. So the third bit, and you'll notice if you haven't already that damn near everything goes in threes. So there's always a third. There's always that third force. And the third force is called mushahada, which means self-witnessing. And it is both referential and reflexive at the same time. To be in a state of self-witnessing is to be in that state that we talked about back when I went over Patanjali's Yoga Sutra. The idea of being in the proper place as the witness. Somebody who is signed in as the nine-sided circle. Who are you who are signed in as the nine-sided circle? And why are you signed in as that? That should either be me or Kyle or Michael. So, are you one of the three of us? And I'm pretty sure you're not me. Michael. I'm not sure why you're doing it like that either, but that's okay. I'm just relieved it's you and not like the page talking back to me. That would be scary. You can close your eyes. I don't recommend it. The idea of self-remembering is to fight sleep. And when I say sleep in quotes. Sleep. The unconsciousness of the everyday mind, the running on your stimulus response meat machine programming, running on your nafs, running on your ego, running on your conditioning. So, I recommend that you do this with your eyes open. And with the third practice, you actually do it oftentimes while moving. The third practice, the self-witnessing, as I said, is both reflexive and referential at the same time. And in order to do it, you have to do three things. First, you put your awareness on your breath. Take a moment right now, and as you're listening to me, just bring your attention to your breath. Don't try and change your breath. Don't try and breathe in any particular way. Just notice that you have an in-breath and an out-breath. And a little pause in between each of those. So just let your awareness notice that you're breathing. Then, let your awareness notice your environment. If you're inside, notice inside. If you're outside, notice outside. Be in your environment. Locate yourself in space-time as the center of the universe, basically. Feel gravity pulling you down to the center of the planet. Feel the expansion of being in a body. And then, while experiencing your breath and your awareness of your environment, make the third step and be aware of your own awareness. This is self-witnessing. This is mushahada. This is your consciousness acting as witness to that which is presented to it, including itself. You will not be able to hold this state for very long at first. And Nick has asked, would I say that self-remembering is closely tied to conscious suffering? And the answer is yes, in the way that we talked about conscious suffering and intentional work last week. Because conscious suffering is allowing everything to be as it already is. And this is a specialized state of letting everything be as it already is. So hopefully all of you are trying this out a little bit right now, just getting that feel for awareness of breath, which gives you the awareness of your body, awareness of your environment, and that includes having a feel for what's behind you as well as what's in front of you, using your eyes, your ears, and your feeling. Get your spider sense out there. And then awareness of yourself, being aware of all of this breathing and environment and awareness thing. When you have all three of those active and in balance, then you are in a state of self-witnessing or mushahada. This has nothing to do with theology. It has nothing to do with dogma. This is scientific in nature. It produces the same effect over and over again if you do it. So, we have that. And now, pull up my notes again. So we are going to go from Central Asia and the Arab world to India for a second and introduce a concept. And this is a concept that is absolutely necessary for the successful practice of self-observation, self-observing, self-remembering, and self-witnessing, especially self-witnessing. And that is a concept called samkarana. Samkarana means the great doing. And strangely enough, it contains three parts. We say prana, injana, asana. Those are the three parts in Sanskrit. Prana means breath. Injana means movement. Asana, in this case, means structure. So your breath, your movement, and your structure, when they are in harmony, become the great doing, the samkarana. And Kyle has all of these written out, and she has the Sanskrit as well as the transliteration and the meaning, and she will be posting them any moment now as soon as she's done calling me an idiot again. Yep, there she comes. So, why is this important? As I have said multiple times, over and over again, and will continue to say many, many times, everything starts with breath. As Mullah Nasruddin says, breathing is very important. If you don't think so, hold your breath for 5 minutes. Breath is the beginning of life, according to the sacred scriptures. A person becomes a living being with their first breath. Until then, they are not a living being. Sigh. So, everything starts with breath. All life is movement. we have a harder time understanding that than some other cultures. When I was younger, I spent a lot of time on the Navajo res. I had 3 friends, and the 4 of us ran a tour company called Touch an Indian Tours. And my 3 friends were all Navajos, and they were all licensed Navajo guides, which means that they could take people into places where you cannot go on your own, like up Canyon de Chelly and Canyon del Muerto and places like that, for those of you who know the res, because they have all of these old Anasazi ruins there, and you have to be guided in. Yes, Ian Scott used these 3 phrases. He didn't invent this, and he would be the first to tell you that he didn't invent it. He merely brought it into the 21st century and made it intelligible to Westerners. And the concept of breath, movement, structure are essential to his Prasara Yoga, for instance. So, Touch an Indian Tours. Now, Navajo is an interesting language. It's related to Apache. It's an Athabascan language. And it's interesting in that pretty much everything in it is predicated on the verb to go. Everything is going. Nothing ever stops moving. So they understand this. If you give a Navajo a video camera and say, take a video, it will be doing this constantly. It never, ever, ever stops, because that's how they perceive the world. So movement is life. There is no time when you are not moving if you are alive. The movements may be small. The movements may be micro movements. The movements may be only your heartbeat and breathing. But at baseline, there will be heartbeat, breathing, and micro movements that mirror your thoughts. And this is important. Did you know that when you think, you usually subvocalize? If you are thinking in words, your vocal cords are experiencing micro movements. Your eyes are constantly moving. As you think, your eyes are going to the places where you store things. If you want to have a picture, you're going to be looking upward. If you want to make up a picture, you're going to be looking at the other side. All of this stuff, you never, never, ever stop moving. So your breath and your movement ideally will come into alignment. And the third part of that is your structure. Asana means to sit stably. And when your structure is healthy, when your breath is healthy, and when your movement is healthy, and they are all aligned, it is much, much easier to stop the flow of ego conditioning, if even for a moment. This is very important. This is so important, I'm going to repeat myself. When your breath is healthy, when your movement is healthy, and when your structure is healthy, and when all 3 are harmonized, when all 3 are working as one unit, when your breathing is creating your movement, when your movement is stacking your structure, when your structure is creating your breathing, then it is much, much easier for you to disconnect from your conditioned self. It is hard when all 3 of these things are out of alignment, because what pulls them out of alignment is your conditioning. Here's an idea. there is a physical state that is deconditioned, the natural state. And when you are in it, your conditioning has a hard time working. But your conditioning also has a physical state. And as your nafs, as your ego becomes more and more solidified and entrenched, it literally warps your body. It warps your breath, and it impairs your movement. One of the things that we know about aging, we can say a person is old when their movement becomes more limited. An old person is always small and tight and afraid to move around because they might bump into something or break something. Doesn't matter how many years you've been on the damn planet, if you are more and more constricted year after year, you're aging. If, on the other hand, you are open and free and your movement in the world is expansive and you take up space as you need it, then you are young. You might have age, but you also have a sense of, it's not really youth. We need a different word for it. So, as you constrict, you age. As you unconstrict, you youth. Youthing is the opposite of aging. So, is this making sense so far? Are we all on the same page? This is me waiting to see comments. I can wait for the next 20 minutes if I need to. Hopefully I won't have to, because you will all hear this and you all chime in going, yes, this is incredibly cool. Character armor. Yes, Reiki and body work. That's one way of addressing it. Probably not the most efficient way, but it's a start. Reich's observation on armoring were right on, even though he was way too affected by Freud. There are a lot better ways now than what we had 100 years ago. And that's not to say that the ways that were developed 100 years ago, 80 years ago are bad. But we ideally are learning new things all the time. So, Wilhelm Reich made some observations. They're profoundly important observations, and they scared the crap out of people. And they ended up literally, or figuratively, burning him at the stake for his observations. F. Matthias Alexander, the guy who created Alexander Technique, made some observations, and he began teaching people how to rearrange their structure. Moshe Feldenkrais made wonderful observations about structure and armoring and breath and all of this kind of stuff. All of these people have worked on this. They are the giants upon whose shoulders we stand. And we need to not stop at their work, but take it further until we completely reclaim our own bodies, in my opinion. Yes, Ida Rolf as well. Ida Rolf did brilliant work. Vitality. Vitality is a good word, Michael, yes. Yeah, so, vitality, the quality of aliveness. As you get older, you lose vitality. As you age, you lose vitality. So, you can have a lot of years and plenty of vitality. Like me, I bounce around like a 6-year-old sometimes. But that may be vitality. That may just be because I'm a little weird. Who knows? But in order to do effective self-remembering, self-observation, and self-witnessing, it behooves you to work on your breath, your movement, and your structure, to free it up. And in freeing that up, you give yourself more energy. Think about this. As age and your ego begin to distort your body, those distortions are solidified energy. You have the whole energy into matter, matter into energy thing kind of going on. The chronic tensions that you hold in your body are places where your energy is stored, not just blocked, but stored, and you are denied access to it. When you break that conditioning in the physical body, you give yourself more energy for your work. This is why Gurdjieff had all of his students go through the sacred movements, the dances, and that sort of thing. All of these things were designed to break the conditioned patterns of the body. And there are even cooler ways to do it now than there were then. Okay, so we're going along. So how are we doing? Is this all making sense? I want to make sure that you go away from this evening with a solid idea of how to do these three things. How to do self-observation, which is to observe the objects given to your consciousness with first-person description in real time, in the present moment, without presupposition, which means you don't call a feeling happiness. You call the feeling what it is. You describe the feeling. You don't call the wall. You describe its texture. You describe its location in space. You describe how you perceive the wall. And you describe only what you perceive, not making presuppositions about it. For those of you who are old hippies, you have undoubtedly, and if Sheikh Ibrahim is still here, he qualifies as an old hippie. You have undoubtedly read a book called Stranger in a Strange Land by Robert Heinlein. And in that book, they have people who are what are referred to as fair witnesses. And fair witnesses basically live in this observer place. And he did a demonstration in the book. He called this woman over who was a fair witness, and he said to her, I forget her name, we'll call her Julie for the moment. And he said, Julie, what color is that house? And she looked at it and she says, it appears to me to be white on this side. And Jubal Hershaw, the person who was asking the question, said, you will not ever get her to make a statement about what color the house is on its other side, unless she were to go over and look at it. And then when she came back, she would not admit that it was the same color as when she saw it. That's what you need. It is a brilliant book. If you haven't read it, you should read it. It's a classic. And for many of us, it was the hippie Bible. It definitely had a profound effect on my young mind. Was one of the few. And so self-observation needs to have that kind of fair witness quality to it. Self-remembering is that same quality turned inward in observing the observer. And that gets interesting. this is what in Western philosophy is called transcendental phenomenology. Edmund Husserl created existential phenomenology, and everybody thought that he was the cat's meow. He was cooler than sliced bread. And that founded the whole existential movement that gave us Heidegger and Merleau-Ponty and Jean-Paul Sartre and all of these people, all these great existentialists. And then Husserl created transcendental phenomenology, which is the phenomenology of pure consciousness. And all of these guys thought he was crazy because they could not make that step from the external being important to the internal being important. And so, looking at yourself being awake, and you do that by turning your awareness inward, and the easiest way I know of, and this goes back to my talk on the question. For me, the question has always been, am I awake? Am I conscious? How do I know I'm awake? How do I know this state of awakeness, and how is it different from the conditioned state? That's always been my question. And so when I ask myself that, it automatically turns my awareness reflexively onto myself to check and see if I am in fact awake. And it's a little trick, and it's a good one. And then the third, which is the self-witnessing, is awareness on breath, which is awareness of the body, awareness of the environment, which is the self-observation, awareness of that which is given to consciousness, and awareness of being aware, all at the same time. And you enter into the state of the witness for those moments when you can hold that. And when I say moments, I mean in the beginning moments. If you can hold it for half a second, you're doing really, really well, and then you're going to have to pull yourself back. Over time, it will stretch out. All right. So, that makes sense? Good. Next week, okay, here's the announcements. First, next week, at a time to be announced, and it will only be announced on the Nine-Sided Circle forum, it is going to be a closed video that I'm going to do. I will let everybody know at least a day ahead of time. It won't be on Sunday. Sunday is always going to be the open forum. But it will be closed because only members will know that this is happening. And this is going to be my gift to you for you guys being good members. And it is going to be the teaching of the next practice beyond this. One that will, I guarantee you, change the way you are in the world if you do it. So, that's the first announcement. That's going to happen. The second announcement is that I am starting a special. The special is going to be, and this will be announced in both the forum and on the page tomorrow, for those of you who are really getting into this work, I'm doing a special block of consultations. So my usual consultation fee is $100 an hour, and which is relatively inexpensive, I'm told. Around here, people are going for $175 an hour just for a therapist, so that's a little frightening. But I am going to do either 4 sessions for $200 or 6 sessions for $300. Your choice. And it will be private consultations on this sort of thing for at least an hour at a time. be prepared to go over, because if you're actually interesting, I'm not going to be watching my clock, and we will just keep going until we're done. If you're boring, it'll be an hour. But nobody here is boring, so we don't worry about that. So, there will be opportunities to do that. It will be for a limited time only. It will basically be for a week. And I will only be able to take probably not more than 6 people, because I only have that many slots. And like I said, I will have a full announcement on that tomorrow on the page and on the forum. And it will give you an opportunity to experience the kind of work that people like Nick and Mark and Kyle do with me and Ramon. Where are you, Ramon? Ramon is working. He can almost never make these, which is unfortunate. But he lives way out in the middle of nowhere. So, there's that. And then the last announcement, which I am incredibly excited about. Most of you here know that what started this off, the whole 9-sided circle thing, was my friend Stephen Barnes. He has been after me for years, literally decades, actually, to do a course on the Enneagram. And I finally broke down and did it with him on the requirement is that he had to do it with me, because if I had to do the teaching, he had to do the teaching. And we did it. We did a 6-week course. And we recorded it, and we have added things to it since then, and we'll be continuing to add stuff. But as of today, thanks to Michael, it is now up and available. And you have the opportunity to get it at the new introductory price. It was free for the people who volunteered to be our guinea pigs. And it's still ridiculously expensive. Ridiculously inexpensive. Yeah, inexpensive, that thing. And it covers several things that you will not find anywhere else, written down, talked about, taught in workshops that I have ever seen. And it includes the history of the Enneagram and how it's actually built. I do a module on the Enneagram of personality just because that's what everybody knows and they're fascinated about it. But I do it from the point of view of understanding what it's about, which is where does consciousness go when it fixates, which is what Gurdjieff originally used it for. We look at the Enneagram in the writing process, the Enneagram as related to movement, the Enneagram as related to waking up, to the process of awakening. And if I do say so myself, it's an incredibly good course. And you can find out more about it at ultimateenneagram.com, which is pretty easy to remember. But all of this will be written out and thrown up on the various pages and groups that are related to this tomorrow as well. So I am very excited to announce that, because this is something that it's new. It's not a redo of anything. It is material that is not presented anywhere else. It is material that literally took me 50 years to learn. And it is material that will change your life, because if you learn it, it will be as if you can see into the future and know when things are about to go pear-shaped and prevent them from doing it. Think about that. Think about how interesting life would be if things never went pear-shaped on you again. That won't actually happen. Pear-shaped is inevitable, but you'll get less pears, and less pears is good. So those are my announcements, and I am totally geeked about all of them. I'm really looking forward to doing a private video with you guys and teaching you something that goes beyond what I can teach in open group. There are some things that you don't teach people if you don't know them. And while most of you I haven't met in person, I feel like I know most of you well enough to know that your sanity is relatively intact, and you probably won't go drifting off into the void by doing at least the next practice. Yep, it is definitely worth all of it. So I am also excited to be able to create an opportunity to work with some of you individually, because that is what I really love to do. And I have found that Skype is almost as good as sitting in person. Not quite as good, but almost. And I am really looking forward to an opportunity to spend some hours with some of you. And the ultimate Enneagram, the thing that should have been taught from the get-go with this, but never was, and is more fun than personality. Personality gets old after a while. I have one. I live with it all the time. It's like a barely trained dog sometimes. So, you've got to deal with the personality thing. But knowing how a process works, being able to see the world as process and to intuit where the shock points will be in the process is such a valuable skill. It will change your life. And for those of you who have actually been playing with it, feel free to give me spontaneous, unsolicited testimonials about how good it's been for you to do this. So, it is that time again for me to say goodbye and good night. There will be much more about this in coming days. And I am, as I said, very excited and really looking forward to being able to participate with all of you at a much, much deeper level. So, with no further ado, I wish you the best of all possible evenings. And I'm looking forward to next week. So take care. And this is the Nine-Sided Circle signing out.